about starting your community partner relationship. So many of you have already received who your partner will be, or you will soon. So we'll go over how the main form of communication will be for starting your community partner relationship and how to consistently stay ethical as well as responsible when communicating with those that you work with or for. So, email is going to be the main form of communication between you and your partner. Email may also be the main form of communication that you will have for any job that you apply for later. So, knowing how to write appropriately in this type of mode of communication is crucial. So, we'll go over email in this video. So, written communication, like email, is the most common form of communication for most jobs, mostly because it's traceable. And having something traceable is a double edged sword. What that means is that it can be really good or it can be really bad. So, when you have a traceable document, that means something that can be pulled up at any time and located at any moment, whether you work there or you've long gone. It can help you to make points that you have already sent off. So that's a good thing. I mean, you can say, like, oh, I've already done this. Here is the date and time that I've already completed this task, or that I've already sent this off to this client. So it can be advantageous in that sense. The bad thing is that if you've sent off something that is not good, or you haven't sent anything off at all, there is no trace of it, then you, of course, you become liable for that. And you can have some consequences served, especially if you've sent off something that is inappropriate or unnecessary for the company. So please be mindful that it's a good thing, but it can also be very dangerous. So being responsible in how we craft our traceable documents is going to be essential. One final thought that I did have about emails, because I know I've dealt with this in my own personal life, as well as other jobs that I have been a part of. Have some clear boundaries and distance between your personal life and your work life. This is totally okay to do. So you don't have to answer emails on weekends or past certain times or late in the evening. Or really early in the morning if you don't want to. I mean, your job is most likely going to be blocked off Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So anything else you do outside of that time, as long as you are not being compensated for it or paid for it, like, that is your free time. You are free to be away from your email or responding to your boss. Because you're not being paid for that time, that extra time. One thing that I do is I don't even have my work email or my school email on my phone, because that is a separation that I like to have, a clear boundary that I like to have. I need to enjoy the time that I can and separate my personal life from my work life. So just be mindful when you start your careers, or really anything that you do that requires a good bit of your week. So one of the first things is the subject line when you are crafting an email. So you want to make the subject line clearly worded. You want to keep it short and to the point. You don't want any more than 4 to 5 words maximum. Minimum, it can literally have one word. But always have something in the subject line. Don't send something without a subject line, because then you risk the reader throwing it away. You risk the reader not even opening it, and people just don't like to have things run across their inbox and not know what it is pertaining to. So let the subject line speak to the main point of the email. The few words that you choose should speak to what it is exactly you are emailing about. The body of the email is the next step. So begin with a greeting always in your email. And since this is going to be the first time you're contacting your community partner, introduce yourself briefly. Keep the introduction straight to the point, though. Say your name, say who you are, and say you're really excited to get started. Nothing past that is really necessary. You don't need to go into even what year you're in. You don't need to go into what classes you're taking. You don't need to go into even why you're so grateful that you got this position. That's unnecessary. Just say hi. My name is Genesis. I am a second year PhD student at Northeastern University. I'm really excited to get started. That's really all you need to say. Even when you have your own career and you hold a title in the company, you don't need to extend too much of an introduction. You want to put the most important information in that opening paragraph. So after you've done your introduction and you have your opening and you start constructing your opening paragraph of what you are asking for or what the main point of the email is, you want to put the most important information there. What is it that you want or you need? Your reader and receiver of the email shouldn't have to search for what you want. No one likes reading long emails. So make sure that you keep them short and to the point, but also your most important information is at the very top. Keep your sentences and paragraphs short. So make sure to divvy up your information. I don't like to include more than 4 sentences to a paragraph in an email. Also, don't send off extremely long, overly just packed information in an email. If you feel like you are explaining way too much, that is an opportunity to say, let's have a phone call or let's have a Zoom meeting to talk about these things. Don't include everything in an email. If you feel like you are running into too much, the next option, honestly, is to just say, let's talk about this over a Zoom call or a phone meeting. If you are asked to send a long email, however, I know they can be unavoidable sometimes, especially if your boss or project leader asks you to. Sometimes you can break up that email by using headers. So same thing as you did in your resume, you used headers to divide up your resume. You can do the same thing in an email, is to use headers and divide up several points. Finally, you'll have your conclusion. So you want to thank them for reading the email and let them know of what your next steps are based on what the information you provided and what you expect them to do if that's applicable. So I always like to end emails with a recognition that I expect them to respond or to take action. And some of the phrases that I use, you may have seen me use this with yourself, with y'all, or I use it with a lot of other emails that with people I talk to. So I say, I look forward to hearing your thoughts, or even please let me know how to proceed, or I'm looking forward to connecting soon. If this is your first time meeting and you want to connect with someone or you want them to respond to you soon. These are pretty broad general statements. They're also very personable. So keep in mind that you want your emails to be very personable as well, and show some type of kindness and personality. It never takes effort to be kind. Always remember that. And since an email is a traceable type of document, you always want to come across as kind and never feel like people can take your writing out of context and use it against you. So that's when we talk about your tone. And a tone is very important in your email. What you write will always carry a certain tone or attitude to your reader, whether you like it or not. So if you're being too, I guess, fake, it'll come across in an email. So try to stay away from cheesy statements or statements that you really wouldn't even say in real life. But also don't try to be so objective that you come off with no personality. So try to always write and answer your emails with the utmost positivity. Even when you're saying no, So sometimes somebody may ask you to do something in your work, and that's either one, not your job, or two, you don't know how to do it. Even if you are saying no or objecting to something, you can still have positivity in that email. So always remember that. To say, whenever I say no to things, I say, thank you so much for considering me with this opportunity. However, at this time, I don't feel like I will be able to fulfill the responsibilities or the obligations, or I'm knowledgeable in the task you are asking me to do. I hope you do consider me for any other future tasks, but at this time, I don't feel comfortable providing you with the best service. I think that's a great way to say no, and I'm not being mean. I'm not being rude. I'm actually being quite honest. So don't be afraid to say no, but of course with positivity. Always think before you send off an email, what type of attitude would I read in this email if I were the one to receive it. So you always want to maintain a favorable relationship with all the people that you work with, whether it is internally in your project or in your company, or if it's externally, if it's with clients or stakeholders outside of your company. You always want to remember you don't want something that someone can take out of context and show to your boss or circulate around your office. That's horrible. So once it leaves your hands, you open the potential to your email coming back to haunt you, and even being taken out of context. So always try to have a tone of positivity in your emails. So some phrases to avoid and things to avoid. Avoid phrases that suggest the reader is negligent or careless or unintelligent. So some phrases can start with "you fail to," or "I simply cannot understand." These come across as very confrontational towards the reader, and it actually shows that you don't have any respect for the person that will be receiving this email. Sometimes even if that person did make a mistake, calling them negligent or careless or unintelligent through these forms or phrases isn't a wise move. So try to stay away from things like this. You want to avoid phrases that imply that the reader might be lying or exaggerating. This is actually something really important, because sometimes you may come across emails where you're like, what is this person talking about? Like, I did this, or, how can they say this? Like, I did do my job. And a phrase like that would say, you claim that. So try like picking and choosing little parts of an email isn't worth it. So don't imply that. Don't make implications that the reader is lying or exaggerating. Again, try to respond as positive as you can. Be kind. I know it's hard sometimes, especially when you feel like your character or your own intelligence is being challenged. But you know. My dad always says, don't stoop to a fool's level. Once you do, you got two fools. So don't stoop to that type of behavior, especially in an email. Omit excessive and insincere flattery. Just don't be cheesy. Don't be excessive. Just be real, like you would talk to them in person, like a conversation. And avoid being too formal or objective, because that again is going to come off as impersonable. We talked a little bit about that in the previous slide. So people aren't robots. They have lives, and your demands or questions in an email can come across as inconsiderate. So taking into consideration how you craft your email, how you craft your sentences is important, because you don't want to come off as someone who is demanding. Such a phrase could include, the changes agreed upon per our conversation are herein included. Your immediate reply will be greatly appreciated. That's okay, but it's very robotic. So instead, try revising it to be a little bit more personal and a little bit more considerate of the person in their life. And possibly the fact that this isn't the most important thing that they have on their plate. So try saying something like, I've included the changes we discussed from our last conversation. Please feel free to review it and email me any changes, additions, or questions you may have. I look forward to hearing your thoughts by Friday. So this email Not only it says the same thing. It basically says the same thing, just in a nicer, more personable way. So there are multiple ways to say the same thing. And that's through your writing and through your composing that you'll come to find that you can say the same thing in better ways. Some more things to avoid is don't send bad news in an email. That's just, again, traceable document. You don't want to send something bad in an email. You risk that being circulated if it's something very personal, or you risk retribution, things coming back to haunt you. So if you have to say something bad, if you have to send bad news, have a conversation, pick up your phone, send the email like, do you have time to talk? I'm available at this time. Let's have a meeting. But don't imply that there's going to be bad news in it. Having a conversation is the best route. I know it's gonna suck. It's always awkward and it sucks, but it's so much better than having something traced back to you. And finally, don't send anything off full of emotion. If you are angry from something that came across your inbox, if you are just feeling spiteful and emotional, just don't do it. Just wait, go get lunch. Go sit back, go meditate, go do what you need to do in order to gather your emotions and gather your thoughts, and just then come back to it and feel refreshed and feel like you can distance your emotion from the email, just even if it's just a little bit, and construct something with positivity again. Last things. So, writing in a conversational tone will always allow the reader to feel comfortable, and will most likely always make you enjoyable to work with. So, even if someone is, you want to meet people where they're at, not where you expect them to be. If you expect someone to be at a certain place, they will never meet your expectations. And that can be conveyed through an email. So, always, always, always be kind, be positive, make people feel comfortable being around you and asking you questions, because that's what you want. You want a working environment for everyone. Writing emails is always about clarity. Don't beat around the bush or write so much that you believe you're being unclear. Stick to the exigence or the importance of your message and welcome any questions. People will always have questions for an email, so always be open and receptive to questions. Get to the point in a personal way that avoids wasting too much of your time writing and the reader's time. So don't take so much, you shouldn't be crafting emails that take 30 minutes or so, unless it's a really long one. But get straight to the point, that doesn't waste your time writing it, but also doesn't waste the reader's time reading it. If you're unsure about whether to send an email, have a work mentor look over it that you trust, or sit on it for a while. Of course, similar to the composing process, you want to come back and edit, and try again later. So these are some of the ways that you will communicate with your community partner as well as any other person you work with. This video, I hope, was helpful in considering emails and how it is a rhetorical mode of communication that can be used for your benefit.